Today on the Rise of the Challenge podcast.
As I started to get older and that self-belief started to grow, I put my hand up for more responsibilities, whether that was captains or leaderships of some sort or taking practices. And that just allowed it to stay fresh in my mind. So every day, every year, I would step into a different role, which I'd have to prepare for. I'd have to upskill myself in some way. And, you know, it's probably an important message for all athletes out there.
Welcome to the Rise of the Challenge podcast. Joining today, he's a former sports coach, an Australian athlete, and growth mindset coach. It's Tim Hall. How are you doing today, Tim?
Fantastic, Alex. How are you?
Doing good. We are so excited to have you on the show to talk about your rise to the challenge. What we'd like to do with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what you like doing growing up.
So as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not American, born and bred in Australia. A little bit of a different childhood growing up. Look, as I was younger, loved my sports, loved being outdoors like all young Australian kids did. But then as my sort of youth started to go into it, you know, turbulent things happened in our family. My mum was unfortunately diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which, you know, sort of took her life at a very young age for me, and really shaped a lot of who I am today. But hey, look, growing up in Australia, it's a beautiful country, beautiful weather. So you definitely love the sports side, the outdoor side of it. And I can talk about a bit more how, you know, mum and the illness and what I had to step in to help her, how it shaped me to where I am today.
With the sports part, were you mostly drawn to the on-field sports or the kind of the beach setting? Because you learn a lot about people from Australia. It's like they're either growing up by the beach or they like Australian football, rugby, all those types of sports.
Yeah, you're pretty much spot on. A lot of my friends were the more field sport type people. But at school, I can think of a group of guys who are all surf down at the beach, and then the rest of us, which were the on field. Very few were a bit of both. Like growing up, I used to enjoy surfing. I still love going to the beach. But yeah, it wasn't something I'd spend a lot of time in my youth doing. It was more, you know, training for football, playing basketball, other sports like that.
You said your mom really shaped you to who you are today. What is the biggest thing she taught you growing up?
So many, so many things. So, yeah, look, I think it was just the situation I was in. So I was 14 to 15 years old when she passed away. I had to come home from school, help look after my mum. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't even take herself to the bathroom. Of course, I had brothers and sisters who were there to help me as well, but I really had to step into that. So it made me grow up very quick. It made me look at life very differently and to be more balanced in the mind, more calm. But then there's other aspects of, you know, for an athlete, which it took away from me. I didn't really have that killer instinct and that real passion to go get it because I didn't have that understanding. A lot of my childhood was spent supporting her. So it's you know, you can flip the coin on that one. There were so many beautiful things that I learned from that experience, and I look back at it today, and like I said before, it shaped who I am today, and I'm so proud of the person I am. But at that point, you know, for a sporting career where I wanted to go, if I had a different type of experience as a childhood, I'm sure that outcome would have worked out differently for me.
Especially at the age 14 and 15 is usually that age where the individual is really learning a lot about themselves and kind of which avenues they want to go. Because you mentioned sports was such a huge part of your life, and you're really getting into that. Where is this going to take me? With having that big responsibility in the household, did that really put a lot of pressure on you that being the kind of that head figure in the house or kind of be that leadership role without that title for your siblings, kind of have to be that protector for everyone?
Well, actually, I was the youngest, but my
Oh,
eldest brother, yeah, my eldest brother, he was living in the UK at the time, so he wasn't home. My second eldest brother, look, he was going through, you know, that teenage sort of time as well, so he handled it his own way. So it was really only my sister and I that sort of did the most of sort of caring for mum at that particular point. But you're right, I still had to step into a leadership role because, look, I was a young kid. I was going through puberty. I was going through the pressures of, you know, going to school and having to do well there and just understanding how life works at that age and, you know, to still have that focus. And I think it was the default focus for me that when school was finished, sort of I didn't go hang out with my friends because I had to come home to help look after mum. So that's where, I stepped into that identity because I knew I had to. There was nothing else, or there was no one else to be able to help her in that time. So, look, it's something in the moment. Like I look back and I'm really proud of myself because, there's not too many kids who are 14, 15 years old that had to do that type of thing. And I know everyone's got a story and a different upbringing, but for me, just to every single day to show up and give my mum what her needs, and the same for my brothers and sisters, for all of us to do that, so dad could support his own business because he was busy working, and all the other family members around us as well. I'm really proud I could have stepped into that, and it didn't bring me down. It veer us kids off in a direction of alcohol, drugs, or rebellion, sort of acting out, or nothing like that. We were just good kids. We did the right thing because that's just what had to be done.
I love how you mentioned that everyone could have something similar in what their upbringings, but also a lot different. For me, at that age, for me, 14, 15, my dad was going through alcohol addiction. And my parents were divorced. So anytime I went over to his house, it's like I felt like I was the dad in the house. I was the only child. He was not married at the time, no relationship. And I was the one feeding, making dinners, cleaning, and all that while he was doing what he was doing. And it brought me a lot to where I am today as a person that is more schedule orientated, or someone that really is on top of making sure things are kind of scheduled. And you wouldn't think a 14, 15-year old would get that from going through that. But I think it taught me a lot about growing up at a young age where people are like, your mannerisms are kind of like shocking for your age. I take that as a compliment. But if I didn't experience that, I don't know what I would have been like where I am today without having to go through that.
Yeah, spot on. And look, you talk about adversity, the challenge, like, this is what your show's about. I feel like everyone at some point needs to face adversity
Yeah.
because that's how you learn most about yourself. And look, for you and I, we had to step into those type of moments at a young age and an impressionable age. So that really instilled our beliefs. That really grew inside of us as a DNA that, whenever we face a challenge in the world today, we know we can get through that. We know we can navigate that. So I'm like you. I look back at that experience of my life, not in a negative way. Absolutely, I'd love to have my mum here. I'd do anything to have my mum here. But it is shaped so much about how, I stepped into sport in my later career, how I stepped into business. For me to leave Australia to come to the US and start this business that I'm doing now, like to take risk and deal with all the challenges that I face. If I didn't go through that from a young age, I don't know if I would have the guts or, be able to face that fear every day like I do now.
With your sporting career as an athlete, was it hard to focus on one particular sport and be the best at that, where you ended up at a professional elite level?
Yeah, look, I think growing up in Australia, we're really, just thrown into any sport we want to play. Like I know in America it's very different. I work with a lot of high school athletes, and it's almost a 24/7 job for them. Like every single day, they're either, if they're say for a football, like they're doing football practice, or they're lifting, they're doing speed work, or they've got like QB coaches. Like you need to pick that sport and focus on it. For us as kids, like I was playing cricket, basketball, football, any sport that, my brothers or sisters played around me, I was taking part in that. And for me, I think that's a positive because you learn so many other skills, hand-eye coordination from playing different sports. And I find that, working with a lot of athletes today, where their deficiencies are from a skill point of view, when we talk about this, I know, if they played a different sport, if they played a soccer or basketball or something like that, they would have been able to pick up that skill set from a young age. But yeah, over here, it's like, whatever your sport is, if you show some talent in that, it's 110%. We're in and away we go. But in Australia, hey, bat and ball, come down and join, be part of it, have some fun. And it's not until sort of you hit that 16, 17 type age where you got to, start to focus a bit more on what you're really good at.
Was it always the plan down the line to be a professional athlete, or did you kind of have that other dream job that you wanted to pursue, but the other path kind of took over?
Yeah, I think it's any kid who plays sports dream to become a professional athlete. It's, you see it on TV, the bright lights, the big crowd, the fame, the money, all that stuff that comes with it. They're always your idols as a young kid. Like I remember I used to go watch, professional football teams train, and these guys just look like they were 7 foot tall, just big muscly men walking around like, whoa, I want to be one of those one day. So I think we all have that dream. For me, like uh, the level, the semi-professional level that I got to, that took a lot of hard work. Took a lot of energy, and I think when you're so young, you don't recognize that sort of stuff. And I feel like for me, when I was talking about before, some of the deficiencies that took away from my upbringing was understanding that, and that's probably why I didn't get to the top of the top or have the most successful career that I probably should have had with the skills, because I didn't really have the understanding. I didn't really have that killer instinct, that, work every single day attitude about me. I had to discover that later in my life as I worked through the ranks and through coaching. But, I think everyone's journey to that professional realm is different. But ultimately, yeah, if you play sport, you have the opportunity to do everything you can to get to that highest level that you want to.
Was there a moment during your times with the teams that you played a part that sticks out to you as a proud moment, a monumental moment that you'll never forget?
Yeah, probably when it really shifted for me was when I made an All Australian team. So this was competitions all around Australia. We played in a state competition, and then they picked basically the best 22 players from all these state games that were played. And I happened to be part of that. And then we went to Ireland. We played the All Ireland team in international, the Gaelic football. We played some university teams, some county teams. And that's, for me, was the moment when I really grew up. I really started to believe in my ability. I really started to see, my leadership skills starting to come out, because, I was put in a situation where, hey, I'm a very insular type guy. I'm not the extrovert that, you think most coaches are. I'm very much an introvert. So even at that age, to travel to the other side of the world with, 20 odd guys that I've never met before, to play a sport that's a little bit different to what I'm used to, I discovered the best version of myself. And again, it just reaffirmed, by stepping into those discomforts to challenge yourself in different ways, you discover so much more about who you truly are and what you can possibly achieve.
Well, it kind of also goes with what you were younger, stepping into that role, kind of telling yourself, I need to take on that challenge. And you were able to step into that leadership role, not having the title of a captain, unless you did, and I just didn't know. But those are the moments that a lot of players look up to those players. They don't need that title. They kind of find it within them to really go out there and kind of showcase like a different side that they never know, because that also leads to where you are today with helping others as a coach. Did there be any pressure representing your country? Kind of like when you ask an Olympian representing your country at a big elite level, it's sometimes pressure, but representing Australia in that team that you're a part of, going to Ireland, did you feel pressure or was it thrilling because out of all the people they could have picked, I'm one of the select few that got this opportunity?
Yeah, look, there's definitely nerves, and there was a little bit of expectation that goes with it. But I think because of my childhood growing up, the challenges I faced from a sporting career, from a school career, from just being a young man, I think I just really instilled in myself, just go and enjoy it, have some
Yep.
fun with it. And I think also that the fear side of it, the introvert side of it as well, sort of just kept me in that shell, and allowed my mind just to stay a bit more balanced and focus on the task ahead, as opposed to worrying about what was happening around us. So when I got over there and we had our first practice, I'll never forget it. It was probably about 4 hours after we landed. None of us had slept for like 20 hours. Our eyeballs were hanging out. And I remember us running to the ground. And that was really, the when the crack sort of started to open up, and I could really see myself, hey, this is something special. Like I can have some fun and really, grow as an individual, make some new friends, but achieve something amazing here as well. And I think that's when my self-confidence grew, just pretty much in that moment.
Did you ever get burnout or feel like this might not last forever and I'm ready for that next challenge or that next chapter in my life?
I don't think it ever happened to me because as I started to get older and that self belief started to grow, I put my hand up for more responsibilities, whether that was captains or leaderships of some sort, or taking practices, and that just allowed it to stay fresh in my mind. So every day, every year, I would step into a different role, which I'd have to prepare for. I'd have to upskill myself in some way, and it's probably an important message for all athletes out there because if you just go through every single year, doing the same practice, playing the games, not challenging yourself really in any way, you are going to get to a point where you feel burnout or you're just not inspired to like push yourself anymore. So I learned to be able to say, all right, how am I going to challenge myself this year? What am I going to step into that's, not in my comfort zone? And I may not succeed at it or be the best at it, but I'm going to learn so much along the way. And so I started to focus on that every single year. A lot of it was around leadership because I wanted to go down into coaching, and leadership's a huge part of that. But yeah, just being able to step into those different roles every year. I was so excited to play. I was so excited to meet the new guys and sort of nurture the young guys coming in, and build a great culture around our club. Like I really took a lot of pride in that, and it probably led to a lot of success that I had in my later career as a footballer.
With coaching, was it hard not being on that platform, playing on the field, but on the sidelines? Did it kind of make you want to, okay, maybe I want to go back to being an athlete and getting on the field?
Yeah, the first couple of years it is really tough because you play that old game in the mind. Oh, like I would be able to do that if I was out there, and but coaching, you're not. That's not your responsibility. And I think for me, towards the end of my playing career, I was actually coaching as well. So I was sort of getting the taste of both pies there, and satisfying myself. Then when I stopped playing, I actually started coaching at a very high level. So, we'll training 4 nights a week, playing on Saturdays. And then I was watching a lot of vision, a lot of preparation that went into it. So there was a lot of energy going into just the coaching side of it. My body was an absolute wreck. Like if you know Australian rules football, it's a physical game. We just wear a mouth guard. We have no body protection. So I've had knee injuries, shoulders injuries, cuts, bruises all over my body. So my body knew that it was time to stop playing as well. And just, you still enjoy having a kick and everything and running around. But yeah, I think once I sort of stepped into that higher level of coaching, I just knew, this is, for me, I probably wasn't born to be an elite professional athlete. I felt like for me, with all my childhood growing up, all those experiences, I was really born and nurtured to be a coach. And I felt the passion and the love to do it. And I really enjoyed, seeing the guys that I was educating, guiding around me, stepping out on that field and showing that off. And that's what inspired me more, almost just as much as playing. So for me, I think the transition was, slow to begin with, but once I found that little niche there, then yeah, I fell in love with it straight away.
It's almost like if you didn't have that opportunity to coach while you were playing, you probably maybe not would have found this passion in coaching. And it's kind of like everything you do can always lead to something that you didn't expect
Mhm.
until you took that first step forward to eventually get to that end result. Looking at your full journey with coaching professional sports and being an athlete, what was the biggest thing it taught you about yourself before making that transition to the next chapter?
I feel like for me, you just gotta you just gotta trust who you are. I felt like for a lot of my sporting career, I doubted myself. I doubted who I was as an athlete, my skills. I would compare myself to other teammates around me, my own teammates. And I know that held me back. I know when, the coach would call us in and we'd be standing around the coach, I'd be the guy standing out the back because I was nervous to stand out the front in case he asked me a question. And I look back on all that experience and where I am now and how I coach my athletes now. And I say to them, like, guys, like that's the best part of the journey. We embrace that. And if we make mistakes, that's even better because that's when your best learning is going to come out. So looking back on mine, I wish, I wish I had this guidance for someone to be able to share that with me, and or just take a bit of ownership and say, hey, Tim, come on, get out the front. Or Tim, I'm going to ask you a question, or just sit down and have a conversation face to face and say, trust yourself. You are a good athlete. You have the potential. Just believe when you step on that ground, you can do it. And I probably needed a little bit of that just to get me going. Unfortunately, I didn't. But again, that's something that I recognize in a lot of athletes today. Hey, we all need that support in some way. We all need a kick in the butt in other ways as well. But I felt like, the communication from that experience I had really helps in how I do coach my athletes today.
Were you able to separate both personal and professional during this time? Were you able to enjoy the personal life journey, find other things that make you happy, but also be able to be professional when you're at work? Because you talked about how the sport, being the athlete, the coach was a big part of your life, but sometimes we forget that you got to think about what you do off the field, out of the coaching office, and things like that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like when I always talk about your off-field personality and your on-field personality, they're not the same personality. You've got to have passions. You've got to have other projects that you're working towards. You've got to be able to switch off that on-field personality to recharge your battery, to reset yourself, and yeah, and not lose focus in who you are as an individual. Because as an athlete, you're just you're just an athlete. It's a title essentially. It doesn't define who you are as an individual. Who you are when you wake up in the morning, in your relationships, as a son, as a daughter, whether it's around your work colleagues, a lot of that defines who you are as an individual. So again, I think the journey of me when I was really stepping into my latter years of playing into coaching, I was doing so much personal development work on myself, growing, trying to understand it, healing from the past. And one thing that really came out of it was having that balanced mindset, which I knew I already had from a young age, but I really heightened that to the next level. So yes, I could put 110% into coaching, but as soon as I took the coaching hat off, came home, I could just switch and leave that and focus on other things in my life. And I feel like again today, as young people, as that young athletes growing up, and every individual out there, we can take emotions from work, from sport, from relationships, from something, one area in our life into another area. And we can drag that around all day. And it is tiring. It is exhausting, but you don't have to. All right. And this is where, the path I came down to coming into a mindset coach, I was seeing that a lot in young athletes I was working with. And, when I would guide them to sort of shift that and give them different tools and tips on how to shift it, their performance started to increase. Their happiness started to grow. Their confidence of who they were as a person, not on field, but off field, you could see them really start to shine. And so I feel like we all have that capability, but, we need to work on it. We can't just flick that switch and, have that perfect off-field personality and the perfect on-field and have a space in between. You need to work on this every single day. Otherwise, when one part of your life is really emotional, you're going to take it into all the other areas of life too.
Especially when you hear people are working 80 hours when the normal is 40. I mean, some positions, some jobs maybe take more, but when you're stressed during that 80 hours, the hours that you're not working, you're just continually to be stressed. And you got to have that balance. And I think especially those 9 to 5 jobs. When that 5 o'clock hits and you log off, don't take that work home. Or if you work from home, leave it in that room that you're in, because the more you bring it out, the other people are going to notice. I mean, the people that you're around with, relationships, friendships, they're going to notice if you're stressed all the time. The first thing they're going to ask is it something from work? Is it something that you're doing daily? When did you know coming to the US was the best strategy for you? That is a huge change to pick up your life and go to a completely new country.
I think inside me, I've always had that adventure bug. I've always wanted to, experience something new and challenge myself in different ways. And I felt like, in Australia, look, I had a great position. I had a good life. I had a house, all my friends, family, everything I needed. From the outside looking in, everyone would have thought, yeah, your life is fantastic. but inside there was still a burning desire. And whether that came from, maybe not living up to that level of athlete I should have, but that burning desire was like, I've got something more inside me. I know I can pull out something greater that I haven't tapped into yet. And I just felt Perth, Western Australia, where I'm from, maybe is this the right environment for me to be able to step into that? Because I am comfortable here. I've got everything I need here. My girlfriend's American. It was during COVID, and she just said, "Hey, come on, let's go on a little adventure." We didn't know how long we were going to go for. The plan was maybe a year and then head back. It's now been 3 years. We're in California. I've come here, started my own business, and I've had to basically, reboot everything in my life, create new networks, create new friends, build, back end of business, all these things that I'd had at home. I had to restart here in the US. I've loved every minute of it. And I can tell you right now, I've been knocked down way many more times than I've had wins along the way. But because I'm doing something that inspires me, because I'm doing something that, every single day, no matter how bad the day is before, I still jump out of the bed and excited for the day. And I suppose that even goes back to a bit of what we were talking about just then with the work hours, like long, stressful days. It's really the perspective you have in your mind. It's the way you see your life. It's the way you see the things you are doing in your life. If you wake up in the morning and say, oh, another long day at work, you're carrying that attitude through your day. If you wake up in the morning and excited about, what working can bring to your life, the money aspect, the friends aspect, the growth aspect, and your perspective is more around that, then all of a sudden, okay, you might still have a bit of frustration about work, but it's a hell of a lot less than waking up, terrible body language, feeling sorry for yourself, and just hating every minute of the day. So your perspective on how you see your life and how you live your life goes a huge way to what you bring into your life and the opportunities you create.
So important. Like whatever the thing that you think about when you wake up in the morning, that mindset, it's like if it's positive, most likely the day is going to have that same feel. But if you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't want to be at work. I mean, we've all have said that at some point. I mean, no one can say they haven't. You kind of have that mental mindset that whole entire day, like, oh, I don't want to be here. Is it 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Is it the weekend? And it kind of just ruins your mood because even if you go do something fun at night, it's like you're still thinking that negative impact, even though this is supposed to be fun. But I love
Yeah.
how you mentioned that the path that you've been on, you're just on a 3-year vacation right now, as what it sounds like. I mean, 3 years in the US, it's like someone going to Australia for 3 years, and now that's basically their home.
Mm-hmm.
With coaching, a lot of times there's so many coaches out there. I mean, you go on social media and you're like, someone's a coach, someone's a trainer, someone's doing this. What specifically is captivating the people that you work with that are connecting to you for a certain reasoning?
I think for me, look, I'm a burly man. I came from a physical sport, and the sport that I played, it's very demanding. And the tools and the guidance that I share in my coaching, a lot of my athletes will look at me and say, man, I can't believe Tim does that stuff. So like, for example, like every single day I journal and I'm so passionate about it. And all my clients, they do that journey, they journal with me and they share that passion with me every single morning to keep accountability. We share the journal with each other to inspire each other. So by doing that, they can see everything I've implemented into my life from a personal growth point of view has definitely helped me become the person or the life that I'm living today. They feel it. They feel it when they talk to me about it. So I think for me, it's, you know, I we've all got our own stories as coaches. We're all got our own beliefs as coaches. I think the way my life has sort of journeyed through the roller coaster motion that I've experienced from a young age, I've learned so many different things about, great ways to live your life or great understanding of how to get the best out of you. Then add that on to me spending so much time in Bali doing a lot of personal growth and a more of a holistic look at it as well. And so a lot of my coaching really stems around that. We do a lot of breathing, a lot of visualization, because our mind can't see the future. It can't feel the future. You need to create that in your mind so your mind can connect to it. So yeah, we can do the journaling and really put ourselves in a balanced mindset. We can do goal setting or manifestation. We can incorporate all that, but to then shut your eyes, to breathe, to bring your nervous system to a relaxed state, and then paint that picture, paint that vision of where you're working towards, seeing the steps, seeing yourself in that moment performing. That is really the most powerful tool you can implement. So I work with golfers. We've sat on driving ranges. We've done breathing and visualization there. I've worked with footballers. We've sat leaning against goalposts, doing visualization there. We can tap into that forward thinking mindset, that vision that we want to create. And I promise you, when you see it, you feel it, you start to believe it. And when you believe it, subconsciously, you start doing it.
Out of the athletes that you work with, have you picked up a new sport that you want to play now?
No, I think, American football is obviously a new one to me. But growing up in Australia, we've seen all the sports that get played in America. I think the one that's really made me look at it in more detail is golf. So after
Yeah.
working with golfers, hearing how they assess their game, how they process around they playing. Again, I've been playing golf since I was 15, but these guys are obviously, 3 levels above where I'm at for my golf ability, and getting an understanding of how their mind works, how they assess a situation that they face. It makes me really appreciate it so much more. And when I step out on that golf course and just try and step into their shoes for that next 4 hours, it's tough. It is really tough. Like, I can stay balanced. I can put myself in a good mental space, but to continually analyze, to continually think of, the best shots to hit, or, the position you're in, what's the right shot to hit, man, these guys are honestly next level. So I really appreciate that. And it's made me enjoy playing golf a hell of a lot more.
Kind of goes back to what we talked about a little while ago with the having that negative mindset when you wake up, especially with golf. I mean, it's 18 holes, and if you're on hole one, you hit a bad shot, and that's all you're thinking about. You have 17 more holes that you're going to have that same mindset going through the rest of your day, where that next hole could be a whole change in the outcome. You could hit a hole in one, you could birdie, eagle, and now your trajectory is going upwards. So it's kind of that, like a lot of the sports that you work with, mindset plays such a big impact on performance, outcome, mood, the way that you analyze the situation. It's like what you're doing for an athlete really plays a big part, where everyone thinks, oh, it's just physical. No, it's emotional, it's mental, it's physical. It basically is mindset is a changing thing for an athlete.
Yeah, you make a great point. And whenever I work with athletes, I always say to them, do you play golf? Do you like golf? And if they do, it's like, yes, because I can use so much golf analogy about their sport, about life, because you're spot on. Like, when I wake up in the morning and I do my journaling, all right, that's me essentially teeing off. I'm in a great mindset, or I'm excited to play that round today. But all of a sudden, I open up my laptop and there's an email and something I didn't do, or there's something I don't want to do that I need to get done. That's a bad shot in the golf. All right, so how do I assess that? How do I not let that control the rest of my actions today, to be able to process it, let that go, and stay focused on what I want to achieve? That's a golf game. That's one hole. That's every hole that they play, and they do it 18 times. So I always use golf as my analogy when it comes to working with athletes, because, hey, you're spot on. Golf, to me, is the hardest game out there because it is all mental. Yes, they are very skillful, 100%, but they can be the most skillful player and be off mentally and will struggle that day. Every other sport that's team related, you can have an off day, but you've got 10 other teammates, 20 other teammates there to pick you up, to push you, to remotivate you, to get you back going again. When you're in golf, it's you and your mind out there, and that is basically it.
As we've been on the journey in your rise to the challenge, what is something listeners maybe don't know about you that you enjoy? Is there an activity? Is there something that really finds more passion in you than something we've talked about already?
Yeah, look, I love running. Running is a form of meditation for me. I love doing long walks as well. Again, just to be able to, be in my own thoughts, maybe put a podcast on, whatever it might be. But anything that can just get me, and even though I've got my phone or technology with me, but just to be able to separate work or any of the other stresses going in my life, running and walking does that to me. And if it's down at the beach, that's even a huge plus in itself.
Do you have any goals looking towards the future with your coaching or maybe in another industry, another type of work that is in your plans?
Yeah, look, when I do my goal setting, I won't look more than basically 6 to 8 months ahead. I really like to be present and delve into where I am in this moment. So there's athletes that I want to work with in the golf industry that I'm working towards. So for me, it's constantly trying to, produce the right content and try and make the right connections with people who can open those doors for me. Because I know if I can, share with them what I'm so passionate about, I know and I believe it will definitely help them from a personal point of view, but also from a career point of view. I feel like, that can really open the doors and expand my horizons of really where I can take this business.
And then we're going to see Tim on the golf course in the PGA, winning the Masters. So we're ready for that journey that you're going to be on.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be seeing me there. Don't worry. Don't have to tune in for that one.
Yeah, I'd be the person that would go to Pebble Beach and just be by the water. You guys can golf. I'm just going to be by here by the water, just relaxing. That's my hobby right there.
Whatever inspires you, you be you.
The final question I'll ask you for someone that's listening to this interview based on your journey and experience, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
Firstly, we've got to turn the distractions on the outside down. All right. So if we're getting emotional, we're connecting to, the worries of the world, of what's happening around us. You're a sheep. You're just going to keep following that energy around and delve yourself into it. So every single day, you need to give yourself time. You need to prioritize you as number one. And whether it's through journaling, for me, it's also breathing, but it might just be stretching, exercising, whatever it might be, to give you 20 minutes just to be able to be in your own thoughts, to move your body, to feel good about yourself. Again, you're creating a strong platform of attitude, of mindset that then you can take into the rest of your day. So that's my number one tip. That's the first thing I do with every client I work with. We get that morning routine in place, because I know if I can get them to buy into that, they will start to notice the difference. And as soon as they start noticing the difference, we can expand and grow from there. But if they go through resistance throughout their day, and then I'm trying to come in and, pass them some other guidance, there's always going to be resistance. So let's strip that resistance, come back within, work on yourself, prioritize yourself. Number one, for 15, 20 minutes every single day, come up with that routine, and you're going to step into your power for the rest of the day.
Tim, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. You're inspiring so many people, and we are excited to see what the future looks like for you.
I appreciate your time, Alex, and thanks for inviting me.
Tune in next time to hear my next guest talk about their rise to the challenge. Remember to follow, subscribe on all major audio platforms. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for the full length episode in video format. What path do you take to accomplish your goals? You decide.